everyone, it's Saskia from the Startup Suite, and welcome to the... What's happening? Wait, something is going wrong with the audio. Doesn't matter. Sorry, something in my technical setup was being weird. Doesn't matter. Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of Startup Talk, the weekly live show for entrepreneurs and startups, where every week we connect with like-minded entrepreneurs, share your best practices, lessons learned, wins and frustrations, so we can all grow together. And today we are talking about outside of the box entrepreneur ideas, because if you want to stand out, you need to think differently. There's a lot of value in learning from others and applying it to your business. Heck, it's one of the reasons why I've launched Startup Talk. But if you're going to do everything the same as everyone around you, chances are you'll lose what makes you uniquely you, and you'll miss out on having an authentic connection with your audience. So whether you're starting your business from scratch or looking to take your business to the next level, it's always worth thinking about different, unique ideas. They may be unconventional, but they can make the difference. But how do you come up with these unconventional ideas? How do you know which idea is the right for you? And how do you know which ones are the golden nuggets and which ones are better not taking further? Well, that's what we will be talking about today. But first, make sure to subscribe. Startup Talk is live every Thursday at 7 o'clock in the evening CET, so this time, on Facebook and YouTube. And if that time doesn't work for you, you can re-watch the episodes on Facebook, YouTube, and the website of the Startup Suite. And it's now also available as a podcast on Spotify and iTunes. So however you're tuning in, wherever you are, make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And as said, this show is live, which means mistakes will be made, improvisations will be done, and you can join the discussion. It's live and interactive, so share your thoughts in the comments using the comment section, and it's there for a reason. Don't leave it empty. Let us know what you think. Now, let me tell you about our guest for today. He is a storytelling copywriter from Billings, Montana, and as a copywriter, he helps business owners and professionals develop their story around their brand. He helps people find their inner entrepreneur with his From No to Grow program, and he just launched his podcast, Left of Normal, in which he talks about his life as someone who is left of normal. And personally, I think that his topic, out of the box, entrepreneurs' ideas, is a great topic to cover. Every person is unique and has his or her own ways that make them who they are and what gives their business that unique advantage. And by doing things differently, you stand out and you'll connect with your audience who resonate with that uniqueness. So I am so excited to chat with him today on how he built his business with outside of the box entrepreneurs' ideas. So let's give a warm welcome to the show to Scott Sery. Hey Scott.
Hey.
How are you today?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. So you are a copywriter, you help people connect with their inner entrepreneur, and you just launched your own podcast. How did that all came to be?
Yeah, so started out, copywriting's been going on for quite a while now, just kind of honing it in more on the storytelling aspect rather than just doing everything that comes my way. But really what wanted to talk about here is the out-of-the-box entrepreneur ideas from the No to Grow program, and then the Left of Normal podcast that's kind of a spin-off of that No to Grow. So I got to kind of bounce around because these things didn't happen in quite the right order. So
that's
kind of
perfectly
start with
fine.
No
That's
to Grow,
life, right?
Should have started with Left of Normal, but so it was about a year ago, started getting this idea that there's a lot of people out there, especially once COVID started hitting, they were out of a job, they wanted to work, but they just couldn't because there's nothing available. And so I started thinking that all these people are looking for jobs that at the moment don't exist, but they had no idea how to create their own job. They had no idea how to make money without a boss on their own. So I started outlining these and getting some topics and getting this online course just on paper, just, here's section 1, this is what we talk about, this is section 2. And then I bounced that through my business network and I said, hey, do you think this is a good idea? Do you think this is something that would take off? And then kind of got feedback, where would I want to put a price point on this? Should I charge for everything? Should I give some of it for free and all that? And so it took several months just to get the idea down. And then it took several more months to actually create all this content. I had to write everything out, script it all, make all my videos, figure out which platform I wanted to host the course on, get it all uploaded, and then actually make sure it all worked. In the meantime, I started having these ideas about this Left of Normal podcast. And what I should have done is started the Left of Normal first before moving into the Know to Grow, because it seems like the people that identify with the Left of Normal are the ones that are more likely to succeed in doing an outside the box entrepreneur idea.
Really?
So Left of Normal, the idea there is it used to be called Asperger's syndrome. They took that off of the official diagnosis about 8 years ago. But when we look at the autism spectrum disorder, a lot of people see, normal. Try and keep my hand in the screen here. Normal on the left, or normal on the right, and then as you go to the left, autistic. But what I've discovered is actually normal is right in the middle. And then way over here on the right-hand side, you have whatever the opposite of autistic would be. Somebody that's super outgoing, super social, but have no social skills. On the other side, the autism is very, not as many social skills, but not as outgoing and very inwardly drawn. Throughout my lifetime, I've discovered that I identify as just left of normal, which makes it difficult as an entrepreneur and a business owner to understand those social cues and understand the sales processes and build those relationships. It just adds a layer of difficulty to everything that I do. Something that over the last 10 or so years, I've realized that I have to make this work. And so I had to start studying how people interact. And I have to look at, if somebody says this, the other person reacts this way. And so now I know the next time I hear somebody say this, I react this way, because that's what's expected of us in society. So the Left of Normal is going through my struggles, what I've discovered with being just left of normal, and then how to function as an adult and function especially as a business owner and an entrepreneur. And so a lot of it, what in some of the later episodes when I get into college and working life, we'll talk about why jobs just didn't work out for me, because I didn't fully understand those unwritten rules of society. And so that's why I say people that are just left of normal, I feel, would do better with these outside the box entrepreneur ideas, because they're not your typical 9-to-5 job. You don't have to go and worry about dealing with a bunch of people that you don't really want to be around, but you have to work with them, and your personalities may clash quite a bit.
Okay, but so I understand that as someone who is left of normal, it's more difficult to deal with these social interactions that you have in your job and your day-to-day life. But I can imagine as an entrepreneur, you need to be even more outgoing, right? You have the cold calls, you have to connect with your audience, with your customers. How did you deal with those challenges?
A lot of it, I have to rely on a network that I've built over the years. I'm open and honest with them and say, hey, this is what I cannot do. It takes so much out of me to go out there and cold call or knock on doors that I can't do that. I can't sustainably do that. And so I rely on this business network and the sales network that I've built these relationships with, just small personal relationships where I'm not out there trying to coordinate. So like a big networking event where there's 50 plus people, it's really hard to coordinate where I'm going to focus all my energy. Where it's only 10 people, it's a lot easier and a lot less strain on me personally. And so I build those relationships in those smaller settings. And so when they're out and about, they can kind of act as my sales force for me. And then we pass referrals back and forth. So it's not just me getting everything. When I do run into people that need their services,
you create your mutual win-win, so to speak. Well, and I think that's really powerful to have even maybe it's a smaller network, but by really having a good relationship in your network, you get these stronger bonds within your network, and it's easier to grow as a network on sich, right?
Yep. And then on top of that too, I rely on more just kind of unconventional networking methods, more online stuff, more stuff where I just promote my work rather than go out there and knock on people and say, "Hey, do you need my services?" And then that way they come to me rather than me constantly having to do cold calling or anything like that.
Okay. So what would be an unconventional way of finding your clients? Because I can imagine for every entrepreneur, for every startup, finding clients, that's one of the big challenges. What is one of your unconventional ways to do so?
So in my course, I talk about to get your first clients. In theory, the first one will be a friend, the second one will be a fluke, and the third one will be because you know what you're doing. And when I look back at my own copywriting business, the first one was a friend, and then the second one was just a random Craigslist ad that I responded to, and then the third one was somebody that I knew what I was doing, so landed a new client, and it's kind of grown from there. And so one of the unconditional methods, rather than just blast everything out there with hundreds of dollars of social media ads, I say, find 10 people that could use your service and just call them up and say, "Hey, I'm launching this new thing. I think you would really benefit from this. I want to make sure you're one of my founding members and you get to be the first in the door. Would you like to sign up?" And so that way you already have that relationship. You get somebody in, you can test out your product, your service, and then they want to support you. So unless it's just way outside of what they need or outside their budget, they're going to help you out.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful, especially the benefit with friends is, well, on one side, they're a bit skewed because everything you come up with, they're like, sure, I'll give it a try. But on the other side of the coin is also they know they can give you feedback, right? If they don't like a part of what you're doing or it doesn't resonate with him, they're typically more inclined to say, hey, I do like this, but maybe you could do this different versus if you have a cold customer, so to speak, or someone you don't know beforehand, where you don't have that personal relationship with yet, they're more inclined like, it's not for me, I'll just go, and you miss that feedback moment, right?
Yep. And then the other side of the coin, though, is your friends are going to be gentler with you. So if something's just absolutely terrible, they're not going to say it's absolutely terrible, whereas a complete stranger will usually just say, "This service sucked. I don't recommend it." And so I recommend doing anonymous feedback surveys. And then that way everyone can send feedback. They don't have to send it right away. They can send it whenever, a week later. And then you don't know who it came from. They can be honest with you. They can say, and then I always preface everything. I'm like, if you're just going to criticize, please tell me what needs to be done better, because I don't just automatically know what needs to be done better. Tell me what I can do better. Tell me what didn't work. Tell me what would work better.
Yeah, and well, I think that's important for any feedback process. It's not only this isn't working, but also how can you make it better? How can you improve? That's typically just, or maybe even more valuable than just this is not for me. Then it's need, how can I help? So as someone who is left of normal, I can imagine the social interactions are more difficult, but I bet it also gives certain advantages, right? So you see that people are more creative, are more inventive. Do you recognize that?
Yeah, a little bit. A lot of it is, I can look at situations and see them from multiple perspectives. And a lot of that is just the last dozen years or so that I've had to do it just so I know how to interact. And I can look at a situation and I can see, here's how I want to react. I'm pretty sure that's not how I'm supposed to react. And then I can kind of think back through, okay, this is where I've seen it in the past. And then the first several years were the hardest because I had to just test things out. And I had to say, here's how I want to react. And I know that's not going to work. So I'm going to test this one and kind of gauge people's reactions and say, oh, that didn't get me a good reaction. I probably shouldn't say that after they say something along these lines. And so it took quite a while, but now I can step back and I can see different situations and different things going on. And I can go back through my memory and see which ones worked, which ones didn't work. And so I feel like I have a bigger perspective on everything that's going on. Whereas people that fall right into the normal category, they just somehow know exactly how they're supposed to react. So they've never had to do any of those tests. And so it's just always been, this is what somebody says, this is how you react. And that's been their only experience, whereas mine, it feels it's been a bit broader.
Okay, well, I can imagine that actually gives you an advantage as an entrepreneur as well, because you've learned to test, adapt, and grow versus someone who's more socially fluid, or however you want to call it. Maybe that's not the right term, but they have more the feeling of this is expected of you. You are expected to, have the 9 to 5 job, do the thing, make your boss happy, and then at the end of the year be happy if you get an end of year bonus or something like that. Versus, I can imagine you, it's like, no, I'm going to find my own way and I'm going to test my way forward, so to speak.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I got started with my copywriting business, was working for somebody else. And I knew a better way to do it. I presented the better way to do it. And consistently over and over, it's like, oh, well, no, that's not how I want it done.
That's not how we do it here.
That's not how we do it here. And it was just over and over. Didn't matter which job it was, didn't matter which situation. It was always, I don't think this is working. I've looked at this and this is not what people need. Here's a better way to do it. And they're like, yeah, I don't want to do it that way. I'm going to do it the old way. And then I had to kind of follow suit and do what the boss wanted me to do.
Yeah, and then I can imagine that at a certain moment you come at this point like, you know what, I don't want to report to a boss. I want to be my own boss, to find my own path forward. And I think that's really powerful.
Yeah.
So we're talking about unconventional ideas. How do you come up with these unconventional ideas?
So when people go through the course, the idea is the first section is free for anybody to go through, and it'll walk through what skills they have, what defines them as a person, and what's the motivation behind what they want to do, what's their why. And so the idea is everybody has a skill or a hobby or a passion that probably 90% of people out there don't have. And if they can figure out a way to turn that around and monetize it, then you can turn pretty much anything into a business. And depending on how in demand it is, it could be just a little side hobby that gets you a little bit extra money so you can take a nice vacation every summer or beef up your retirement fund. Or it could just completely eliminate your 9 to 5 job completely and become your entire business. And so that's kind of the idea behind it is you don't have to go get a job with a boss. You don't have to take a traditional job like an accountant, a lawyer, an engineer. You don't have to have a fancy degree. You just have to have something that you're good at and that you love doing. And then the hardest part is figuring out how can you turn that into something you can sell. And so that's kind of where my course takes you through, identifies that skill, identifies the passion, figures out what's the best way to monetize it, and then kind of sets you free and then it ends up with finding your first clients and how to get feedback on your idea.
Okay. Well, I think that's really powerful. Something that I often hear and see is that people have like, hey, I have this passion, I want to do something with it. I'm really good at, so for me, it's project management, which is entrepreneurship, but within a company. So I thought, hey, I'm going to make it outside of a company. And that's how the startup suite started. But a lot of people also have like, hey, I'm good at something, but they stay in this abstract sphere. Like at a certain moment you need to drill down on what is it exactly that you want and what is it exactly that you don't want. And that's where the decision comes in, like, but I want to do everything, and I don't want to make those choices, because if I choose for this, I will not have this. And do you address that as well in your course?
A little bit. It kind of goes through more of, so one of my examples in the course is I brew my own beer. And
that's so cool.
It's a great hobby. It's a lot of fun. And I looked at, and somebody asked me, why don't you just open a brewery? And so I sat back and I was like, what? It's a big risk trying to go get a big loan to buy all the equipment, find the space, build it all up. Then I have to brew all this beer, and then I have to market it. And at that point, I don't think it would be as much fun as a hobby anymore. I could probably make it work, and I'd probably do well with it. Montana's known for supporting craft breweries, but it wouldn't be fun for me after it kind of tipped into that. Now it's a business, now it's work, and now I don't want to do this. I just want to, go explore the mountains and drink the craft beer. I don't want to sit at the brewery all day long and make sure the beer turns out the right way.
Yeah.
And so at this point, it's a viable option, but we're going to keep it as a hobby.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's also really important. I mean, everyone has various interests, can do all sorts of stuff, but not every hobby does has to be a business. You know, at a certain moment, you can also just do a hobby for fun. Might sound almost um, not like 2021, since everyone's like, hey, how can I turn my hobby into a business? But sometimes I came across this statement a few days ago on Reddit by someone who's like, not everyone has to have a side gig that is about singing, or if you can sing, you know, it doesn't have to be a side gig, and sing off tune if you like, as long as you enjoy what you're doing, you know. And I think the trick is with these unconventional ideas to also figure out which one is the right for you, right? It's you can have a whole cloud of ideas, but you have to pick out the one what really resonates with you.
Yep. And so in the course, we talk about that, and we go through, and I encourage people to list 10 to 15 different things that they're passionate about, that they love doing. I believe it's 5 that they're good at, 5 that they love doing, and 5 that they want to learn better. And then the next course talks about, okay, now let's narrow those down. Let's get rid of some of these that, you know, brewing beer could be a good income, but, you know, let's keep that as a hobby. Some of them, you're not good enough at it yet, or there's just no money. It couldn't be turned into a viable business. So that one gets out. And then it narrows it down to maybe 3 that, okay, here's things that I really love doing, that I'm really skilled at doing, and that could actually be turned into something that could make me some money on the side or become my full-time job.
Okay. Yeah. What do you see is the typical main challenge for people? So your program is focused on people who are left from normal, so who for who the social interaction is more challenging. Do you notice that there's a difference between the normies, so to speak, and the left of normal in the typical challenges that they face as an entrepreneur, selling their product, going out into the world, testing their market, stuff like that?
Not really, because it's focused on that. That's kind of my target market, but it's open to anybody. And so I get a range of different personality types that are coming in to say, you know, some that are very social and very outgoing, and versus some that are even more introverted and left than I am. And so it just kind of depends and that kind of ultimately defines what job they're going to create for themselves. So somebody that's really outgoing, they can do something more with like selling that involves more selling, whereas somebody that's less outgoing has to rely more on creativity and creating a better product or a superior product than somebody that wouldn't have the patience to do it if they were more of a people person.
Okay.
I had another thought, but I forgot it.
That's okay. One question I always like to ask. So, as a someone who's left of normal and talking about unconventional business ideas, what is a very common myth in unconventional business ideas?
The biggest one is that you have to have a boss, or you have to have somebody else to help you make money, or even that you have to have a business to make money. You can freelance, you can make as much as you want without ever incorporating or, you know, actually registering a actual business. You can run it all through your social security number here in the States anyway, and never worry about turning it into an official business. The bigger you get, or the more liability you have, you'd want to do that, because if you get sued as an individual, now they're after your house and everything. Whereas if you just set up an LLC, a limited liability company, they can only take the business assets. And if there's no business assets, then nobody's going to bother suing you.
That's really smart. Yeah. 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 So say people see this and they're like, hey, I'm inspired. I have an unconventional business idea and I want to pursue this. Where can they go?
So my course is through no2grow.com. Just there on the screen. Otherwise, direct message me through any of the social medias. I'm the only Scott Sery out there that I know, so I shouldn't be too hard to find. Sery Content Development is my official business name. I do everything as myself personally. The business is just set up for business purposes. But I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, pretty easy to find. Send me a direct message. Hopefully I'll catch it in that spam folder that they like to send everything off to. And then we can talk about it through there. Otherwise, the course just walks you through, signs you up. You can do the first 3 lessons for free. And then after that, if you want the full thing, it's pretty cheap. It's $249. I kept the price. It's probably a fifth or a tenth of what I could charge. But my target is people that are stuck in jobs that don't pay enough, or they've been recently laid off, or they're in a okay paying job, but they just don't like what they do. And so the low price point is so that cost isn't a barrier to pursue your dreams. I've never felt that I can't pursue my dreams because I can't afford the startup cost. And I
love that.
I don't think that's a good way of living life.
No. And I love that, especially given Corona, the impact it has had. And a lot of people are now looking at, hey, I have an idea, but how do I turn that into a business? And helping in any way we can over there is something that I can only support. So I linked the website of Scott as well in the descriptions of the show today. So if you want to learn more about him, definitely have a look over there. And make sure, if you like this kind of content, make sure to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't done so, make sure to subscribe to the Startup Suite. And if you want to know more about me, this show, or the Startup Suite, go to thestartupsuite.com. And of course, join me again next week. Then I will be joined by a good friend of mine who I actually never met before in person. She is an online and offline event organizer. And we will be talking about how to attract customers using free and paid content. Scott, I want to thank you very much for your guest appearance here today on the show. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I think a lot of people can learn from your podcast and from your website, Know to Grow. So definitely check that out. So thank you all for being here with me today, and I hope to see you all again next week. Bye.
Thanks for having me.